So I'm sure you guys have been mad at someone in your life before, whether it be a parent, a sibling, a friend, might have wished some violence on them. But have you ever actually killed anyone? Have you ever murdered somebody? I'm no cop. I'm no detective. But I am an enthusiast of the paranormal, of history, of like murder cases and things like that. My sister has a degree in historical studies, and my family used to own a haunted house that was based on killings and other spooky stuff like that for about a decade. Today in mass media, we don't really see a whole lot of murders as gruesome as this one. We do have kind of a cold-blooded killer on the loose outside right now, but let's be honest, some plastic gloves and a face mask are not going to protect you from a murderer with a hatchet coming at your head. So, with that being said, today I'd like to talk to you guys about the Lizzie Borden murders, some of the nasty details about the actual murders, the theories behind who done it, and what actually happened after the trial. So, let's talk about some of the gross stuff. So Andrew Borden and Abby Borden were found in their house in Fall River, Massachusetts on August 4th, 1892. So in a book called The Borden Murders Trial of the Century by Sarah Miller, published in 2016, she says that Abby Borden was first struck to the face between her cheekbone and her temple, so around this area, which caused her to turn around and fall on her face, breaking her nose and her forehead. It then says that the killer took an additional 16 hits to the back of Abby's head, totaling 17. So she was super dead at the time that the killer moved on. So Andrew was found on the couch in the sitting room of the Borden house. In a journal by Douglas Linder called Trial of Lizzie Borden, published in 2007, he says that Andrew Borden had a wound 6x4 on the side of his face. So on my head, that's like from here to here and like that thick. It literally split his skull. He was almost unrecognizable. In another book called Fall River Tragedy, History of the Borden Murders, published in 2006 by Edwin Porter, Porter says that Andrew's eye was actually split in half. It was split down the middle, which is nasty. They believe that's one of the reasons why they believe that Andrew was killed in his sleep. So Lizzie found Andrew on the couch at about 11 a.m. He was still warm. And her yelling for her maid is what drew the attention of the neighbors and the police and the journalists to come to the house. One of the neighbors went upstairs to the second floor where she saw Abby laying on the ground face down in the guest bedroom. She was not still warm to the touch. She was cold, which is why they believe she was killed about 90 minutes prior, so about 9:30 in the morning. So let's talk about some of the theories. The most popular theory is that Lizzie is the killer. But since this happened so long ago, evidence from that time is pretty limited. So in a book by David Kent called 40 Wax, The New Evidence in the Life and Legend of Lizzie Borden, he says some things about John Morse. And John Morse is Lizzie's uncle. Lizzie's biological mother died when Lizzie was a child. Abby is Lizzie's stepmom. And it said that John Morse, Lizzie, and her siblings didn't like Abby, which would be a reason for John to kill her. John Morse, came to town 2 days before the murders. The morning of the murder, he left town to go see a different niece in a different town, which is one of the reasons why it's not totally believed that he was the killer, because he's not supposed to be in town at the time. But it could also be an alibi for why he didn't do it. But let's talk about Lizzie. So a popular belief is that the Bordens were killed by someone they knew, because there was no blood and no signs of scuffle around Abby and Andrew, which means that they weren't trying to really get away, because it was somebody presumably that they knew. In the Linder article, it said that Lizzie in her testimony said that she was outside looking for lead sinkers for a fishing trip that the family was supposed to be going on. So that's why she was technically not inside at the time of the murders. Another thing that was brought up in the Linder article was Alice Russell. She was a family friend that came to live with the Bordens after the murders. She saw Lizzie burning a blue dress that Lizzie said that had paint on it. And Bridget Sullivan, the maid, in an earlier testimony said that Lizzie was wearing a blue dress at the time of the murders. So that's some evidence regarding Lizzie. Let's talk about what happened afterwards. So Lizzie was acquitted, meaning she was let go free of charge. She was not guilty. In the case, they brought up a point that Lizzie had gone to a drug dealer to try to buy some poison a few days before the murders, which is some pretty intense evidence. In an article called Why the Lizzie Borden Murders Are Still Unsolved by Heichelbeck, Heichelbeck says that testimony from the druggie and from Lizzie were both thrown out. So we don't actually know. Lizzie and her sister received the equivalent of $7 million from Andrew Borden's estate. They bought a house together. They lived together before they had a falling out, and then they remained estranged from each other until they both died. So that's pretty gruesome. That's the Lizzie Borden murders, as much as we know about them. That's some of the theories and what happened afterwards. I just want to finish off with a promise from you guys, saying that the next time that you get angry at your mom or your dad, you just stay away from the tool shed. You just stay away from the hatchet. Thank you.